Good evening and welcome to the Brunswick County School Board's meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. I would like you to stand with me, please, for the invocation, after which time we will have the presentations of color and the pledge by the North Brunswick High School JROTC. Gracious Father in heaven, we come before you this evening, to ask that you continue to bless us, Lord, in this new year. We have been very successful. Our students are doing wonderful, and we know that you are behind it all, along with all those who come before us and do the work each day. And Lord, we pray that you will continue to be with us as we begin a new year and we make decisions that will definitely affect the students of our county. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Order. Colors. Right. Face. Trail. Colors. Forward, march.
Please be seated. Thank you to the North Brunswick High School JROTC. At this time, we'll have board salutes. Mr. Daniel Seaman, if you'll come forward.
Good evening, everyone. We wanted to start 2020, the first of the second half of the school year, taking a look back at some phenomenal employees and their performances and ability to step up to some tight times from December, the end of 2019. Finance, it's a tricky thing. There's a lot of numbers. You got to be good at math, I'm sure. I'm a former journalist. We weren't that good at math. We did a lot of writing. But payroll for an entity as big as Brunswick County Schools, when you're dealing with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees, it can be a bit tedious when it comes time to the end of the year and making any kind of changes to the payroll process or the payroll system. And don't hold me to it, what feels like the shortest month of the year, December, at least in school terms because of the holiday break, we had some changes to the system in 2019 to close out the year. So to get these changes in place so that everybody got their paychecks and that we didn't have any hiccups along the way, we had 4 staff members of the payroll department who really stepped up, and they worked their tails off to make sure everything was put in place and went without hiccup, and it did. For the most part, what I'm told, we didn't have any major problems. And, you know, it would have been tough enough if you had a full month, but then when you take a week and a half away from it, well, they deserved a little shout out on the public level, and that's what we wanted to do. So I'm going to call them up one at a time. Come up here with me. We have a certificate to give to you, and hold your spot while you're here because I want a group photo as well. First up, we have Jill Helm, Supervisor and Fiscal Specialist. Next up, we have Tasha Akers, Fiscal Specialist. Next up, Michelle Shellhorn, Fiscal Specialist. And I found out just about an hour or so ago while we were passing in the hall that fellow Capricorn, we share the same birthday, January 6th. So happy birthday, just a day ago. Gosh, time flies. Fourth, and certainly not least, is Randy Honstrider, Fiscal Specialist. All right, yeah, let's get a group photo. There we go. Perfect. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Let's can we see the certificate? There we go. So we're all in sync. 3, 2, 1. Cheers, and cheese. Thanks, guys. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. All right, another round of applause.
Happy birthday, Daniel. At this time, we will begin public address, and our board attorney will share information with you regarding that before we begin.
Good evening, everyone. It looks like we had a few people sign up, and to ensure that everyone gets to be heard, everyone will be limited to 4 minutes today, and it's the role of the board to listen to your comments. We'll not be answering any questions or engaging in any discussion. It's for us to learn of what you want to tell the board so that they can make their decision.
I'm just going to read off. We'll come up one at a time based off of the order of the signatures. The first 2 were submitted to Central Services via email. Jason Frink.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you guys for the opportunity for us to be able to speak. As a parent of 4 middle school age and younger children, I do understand that there's a dire need for us to address the overcrowding. But my feelings are, as a board, you guys are the stewards of the most precious resource I have, and that's my children and the children of the community. As we followed the issue, it seems there's been a lot of emotion that's been tied into this across each community. And that is important because these things do impact each family in its own specific and individual way. But I would also like for us to take a look and put the emotion kind of on the side. I would like to see some more concrete information that we maybe have that you guys could present to us. Is there any empirical data that's been collected that address the efficiency and the cost, as well as the safety and the travel times of the students between neighborhoods and the corresponding new schools? How have safety concerns been integrated, if in any way, with the travel? And that's a highlight on my mind today after the tragic accident in Columbus County this morning. And after that, is there any historical data that may have been integrated into these decisions based on accidents or crashes within the prospective new routes? Once again, I'd just like to thank you for the time, and would also like to state my position as a parent in the Waterford and Magnolia Greens community that, if Belleville was not an option, based on our geography, I think that my position and the position of our peers there, we would really like to be at Lincoln if Belleville was not an option. But thank you for your time and your consideration.
Mr. Frankie. Amy Shantz.
I am a parent. I have a daughter at Leland Middle who will be going to 8th grade next year. And so middle school, this is the only year that would affect myself and my family. But we are part of the community, and we want to make sure that as a community, everybody is being well taken care of, which they are already, so I'm nervous. There's been a lot of numbers and a lot of graphs and a lot of percentages and a lot of visual information, and I'm a visual person, not a numbers person. And so when I look at a lot of these numbers, there are a lot to look at, but we're still missing the transportation numbers. Sorry, still nervous. And so I know at the last meeting, we had talked a little bit about the 4 minutes per mile numbers, and we were given then that Mallory Creek to Town Creek would be 44 minutes, and the Magnolia Green Waterford area would be 42 minutes. But looking at a map, it doesn't match up. Those communities are closer than Mallory Creek when you're looking at a map. And also, just to do the numbers, so my house in Mallory Creek to Town Creek to go through Brunswick Forest is 11 miles. To go down the back way around Dawes Creek is 18 miles, which gives us about 18 minutes going through Brunswick Forest and 21 going the back way just for me to drive there, just not a bus, just for me driving. Magnolia Greens, for where my friend lives, it's 8.5 miles and it's 11 minutes, which is a big difference because they feed right on to 17, whereas Mallory Creek, even to go through Brunswick Forest, we're snaking around, which in the spring was reason why it had been tabled at the time, or one of the reasons why. If we do the 4-minute mile rule, Mallory Creek would be 44 minutes or 72 minutes, and Magnolia Green would be 34, which is half. So I know that anyone can still look at these numbers and maps and probably have different interpretations of them. This is literally what comes off of Google Maps. This is what comes off my GPS. I use my GPS to go everywhere. I'm concerned about kids might be on the bus for 72 minutes, but in another community it could be half of that. And so those numbers are not on your list yet, so I'm hoping you'll consider them before you look at the 4 options, and note that those are some more numbers for you. So I thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shantz. Emily Donovan.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My children are in the 4th grade. They'll be rising 5th graders next year, so unfortunately this is going to affect them in a negative way if they are forced to leave their peer groups and move to a new elementary school to then have to move to middle school the very next year. So I would graciously love your consideration and what to do for rising 5th graders and rising 8th graders to maybe give some flexibility and leniency to let parents choose that situation. We know our children best. We know what they can handle as far as disruptions, non-disruptions. Another thing I would like for everyone to consider is there's an elephant in this room that we have not been talking about, and that's the need for another elementary school in the northern corridor near the I-40 area, which is where all the development is happening. And we know we're living with a really unfortunate geographical situation of Town Creek. There's nothing being developed out there, and it's causing transportation problems, and I'm sure it's an incredibly expensive situation for the board to be considering. So I would love for you to also consider how to really address the problem happening in the north area of the county, which is there needs to be more schools. Work with county commissioners, work with the states, get the funds in order to start securing land and build a school in the area where the development is actually occurring. We are seeing that families are moving here. They're moving out. They're getting priced out of New Hanover County, and they're moving themselves into Brunswick County, into the Leland area. So it would be really unfortunate to see a lot of disruption happen. with this current redistricting when we know what we really need is a bigger, better school and a proper location in our area. I am concerned about transportation. I'm concerned about safety. We know in Pender County when a school bus consolidates middle school and elementary students that there was sexual harassment of a kindergartner. The developmental cycle between a kindergartner versus a middle school student is apples and oranges. They're completely different. When you put middle schoolers and high school students together, there's a little more apples to apples, maybe red, green apples, as far as developmentally. So I am absolutely concerned about the possibility of condensing and the liability that would be associated with that. I understand it's being done in other areas of the county. However, I don't think it is a good policy. I do think it opens us up to threats that could be avoided just with how children are growing up today, with rapid use of technology and the inability to fully shield them from that. That's about it, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donovan. Katie Lanier.
Hi, my name is Katie Lanier, and I'm a former teacher, actually, and my husband and I have a fifth grader and a first grader at Belleville Elementary. My family and I, sorry, I'm super nervous. Yeah, if you guys were third graders, I'd do much better.
We have like it sometimes.
I'll just try to pretend you are. How about that? My family and I moved actually from Wilmington to Leland, and we chose Waterford not because, oh, we just love this neighborhood. Of course we love the neighborhood, but we loved the elementary school that they would be going to, the middle school they were going to. That was what was important to us. The proximity of our neighborhood to be able to jump over the bridge and take them to sports quickly. We do that 5 days a week. I'm in Wilmington. If I am traveling, taking and going to Town Creek and then trying to get to Wilmington for sports that are not offered in Leland, tennis is not in Leland. Gymnastics is not in our area. There is, yes, some tennis programs, but not for the level of where my son is. It is absolutely not possible for us to be able to be involved in those things. I also am a volunteer at Belleville, and I can get things done at the school. I can run home. I can go here. I can go there. We moved to our neighborhood for the proximity of being a part of our community, moving our children to a school that is not even in the same zip code. It seems ridiculous. My son will be going into 6th grade next year. He will, if this change happens, he will have one of his close friends. We all remember what middle school was like. It's hard, and I know there's going to have to be changes. I understand that. I feel like our voice in Waterford and in Magnolia Greens is so much smaller because we have so many less young families. But to send us outside of our community would drastically change. Not to mention the buses. You know, it may say on your GPS that it's going to take X amount of time. Get on a school bus and you drive that from Waterford and you drive it. Driving in my car, speeding, I cannot get there that quickly. There's traffic lights. It's a highway. We're going to put our kids in buses on that highway? I just cannot imagine. Another concern that I have is diversity. I want the diversity that Belleville has. One of the reasons we chose that school, I don't want my kids in an all-white school. I want them in the real world. I want them with all different diversities. I think that's important for our world. I think that's important for our students. Taking all these communities that, let's just be honest, the majority of those communities are white, and we're going to move them all, and it's not going to be a diverse school. It's not. I just don't think it's a very good decision. I think there needs to be a lot of thought put into this, and I know you guys will do that, and I appreciate this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lanier. William Flythe.
Good evening, board members, Madam Chairman. I'm Bill Flythe from Southport. Although I do not have students currently in the school system and have no plans to have children or grandchildren in the near future in the school system, I am concerned about the Brunswick County schools and what's happening within our schools. In the case of this particular issue, I attended 2 meetings. During the first meeting, I had some concern with a plan in which the travel time on buses for the students would be reduced, but I believe it would create a problem at, I believe it's Belleville, and I apologize for not taking notes because I didn't expect to speak publicly about the matter. But I think it's Belleville, in which the final plan will still have Belleville very close to capacity. I don't know, at least 90% or so. So that was a concern of mine. During the second meeting, there was some assurance that this would not be a problem at Belleville or whatever school is near capacity because the student population is predicted, is not predicted to be, to increase significantly. And I find it hard to believe that in the Leland area, you will not in the future have a significant number of families with children moved into the area. So basically, I do not want to have a situation in which Belleville is bursting at the seams again in a few years, and you have some other school that's far under capacity. I think the reason that I was reassured at the second meeting is that the consultant presented some numbers in which the prediction for significant growth in the Belleville area would not put the school over capacity. And I'm concerned that if we were just dealing with the general population, that may be the case in which maybe an area like Charlotte, Calabash area would exceed the growth in the Leland area. But we're talking about families with children. I think that there will be a significant increase. So I would like for the board and the consultants to proceed slowly and carefully here to make sure that, again, in a couple of years, Belleville will not be bursting at the seams. And I can I sympathize with the lady who's concerned with the children being separated with her friends, and I do not want that to happen. Again, we are concerned, I know, with the amount of travel time on the buses, but then let's balance that against a situation where you have to consider redrawing the lines, especially for the Belleville area, in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Flythe. Jennifer Watkins.
Good evening. I share a lot of the same concerns you've heard other parents talk about. One being the lack of information that we have regarding certain items. As you guys know, I've attended every meeting there's been about redistricting. I've watched every video, I've read, I've studied. I'm an engineer by trade, so data, I love it. I want to see it. And what struck me about the lack of data was on December 17th on Matthew Cropper's presentation to the board. He presented a slide regarding option 3 that said option 3 is the best balance of elementary school utilization. Overall, looking at both elementary and middle schools, it keeps communities closer to their schools. And option 3 is better than options 1 and 2 in terms of distance to middle school for students moved into Town Creek. So all of those statements were regarding option 3. And then when he was asked for his recommendation, he recommended option 1. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? I didn't hear the board grilling him and asking the questions. Tell me why. Tell me why option 1 is better when you just had this slide that told us that option 3 was the best option. And then when I processed that, I thought, what data is he using to support any of the options he presented? Cropper talked a lot about transportation efficiencies. I think all of us parents share the transportation concern. We know that transportation efficiency is important because if we have low transportation efficiency, we lose state funding. That pulls local dollars out of the classrooms, and we have to use those local dollars to pay for busing. That affects every single Brunswick County student. Yet we have no data regarding transportation efficiencies. We have assumptions. I share a similar concern that other parents have mentioned about diversity. One reason we chose public schools is because we want our children in a diverse school. If you look at who is going to be going to Leland Middle School, again, it's going to be a white school. So my understanding is option 4 was created as a way to maybe balance diversity disparities between at the elementary school level. But again, Cropper presented no socioeconomic data. So how do we know? Why even present an option if you have no data to support it? McKibben, in his October public presentation, said, and this is a quote, "The most important thing in redistricting is not having to go back and do it again in 3 years. Do it again 3 years later." He also talked in depth about growth in the various areas and looking at demographic studies and projecting the growth in 5 years and 10 years, but yet we don't have that information for the options. So like Mr. Fleith mentioned, are we going to be going through this process again in 3 years? Why don't we have that information? We don't have any future growth projections for any of the 4 options. So as I reflect on the recent redistricting process that started in October, and comparing to what we did in March, we still have a lot of assumptions, we still have a lot of feelings, and we still have a lot of opinions. But I believe we need more data. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. Our final speaker this evening, and my apologies, I did turn another year older yesterday, and my eyes are failing me. Is it Andrea Hauser?
Hi. I know y'all have a tough decision, and I appreciate all your hard work. I just wanted to say that because I know y'all really are working hard, and you really do care. The only thing that I saw, and I haven't studied this really well because I have a lot of other stuff going on like everybody else, but I actually live in Lambell Forest and have a house that may be bought out past Mallory Creek, which is, there's 3 roads. It's Mulaney, Southern, and Central. And my only worry there is that option 1, which the consultants say is the good option, has those children in Bolivia, south for the middle school, and then going to north for the high school. And they're not going to meet up with any of their friends if that's the case. So you're going to pull them in 2 completely different directions. In high school, they're going to know nobody. So that was really worrisome to me because everybody plays sports and they want to play with all their friends who they played with throughout middle school and on. it's not going to work that way for those children. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. Let me see. Oh, and it looked like survey 2, or the survey for the parents, everybody was in agreement with more of number 2. Number 2 approved, they disliked more things about the other ones and approved more for number 2, but the consultants were saying number 1. And I think you should listen to the people who have the children, who, you know, have the kids going to the schools. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hauser. Madam Chair, that concludes our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you all. At this time, we will have the teacher's voice. Mr. Garza.
All right, good evening. So we haven't had a lot of time elapsed since our last TAC meeting up until now. So I will give you a little recap on what we talked about at our December TAC meeting, and I'll let you know the direction where we're going with our Teacher Advisory Council. So our Teacher Advisory Council is still very much student-oriented. We're still thinking about the perspectives of our students. And some of the things that we discussed at our December 12th meeting, number 1 was early college intramural sports. As we know, early college, one setback of early college is that there's not any athletics after school. This is something that we're all within ourselves trying to figure out and see if there's any possibility of having some sort of extracurricular activity for students that want specifically physical activity. We also discussed our elementary student groups. Our students at the elementary level are doing a really good job at, you know, voicing their concerns, but I think sometimes when it comes to all of our elementary schools, finding that time where they can meet and discuss and have that student voice that we're still striving to attain throughout all of our schools in Brunswick County. And then we also talked about established our SMART goal for the 2020 semester so that we have something that is attainable by the time that this is over. Attainable, but also sustainable. This is something, just like we have at our board meetings, we have this teacher's voice. We want to have something at our TAC meetings that similar to like a student voice to make sure that we're all thinking about the perspective of our students. When Ms. Osborne talked about intramural athletics, it also sparked other teachers talking about just the opportunity to participate in athletics. And one thing for me as a coach and as an athletic director was looking at middle school athletics as far as the amount of students that are cut from athletic teams. And this is something that as a coach is probably a coach's one of the least favorite things they have to do. And what I had done in the last 2 days is just kind of talk and collaborate with our other middle school ADs. I just heard from Cedar Grove. Cedar Grove's numbers were between 50 to 60 students that were cut. And the reason why I look at this is I look at ways, as a teacher, for me, I want our students to be involved in extracurriculars. And sometimes the students that aren't involved with school extracurriculars don't have that opportunity in our community, whether it's a ride or funding or whatnot. So when I'm looking at this, I really want to look and meet with our ADs this upcoming spring and figure out how we can lower this number, whether it's adding a B squad or finding some way that we can lower this, because it's really tough to look at those ethically for me as a coach and see that we told 123 students roughly at South Middle School that they needed to go home. So, and you know, when you make those decisions, you make those cuts, you feel it. And this is something that we were discussing a little bit over the phone today, and it's something that we want to make sure that we try to at least lower and give students opportunities to participate, whether it's athletically or through other various clubs. This is something that we're looking towards. As far as the timeline for our TAC direction, our SMART goal that we established is by the end of the 2019-2020 school year, we would like our Teacher Advisory Council to foster and integrate a sustainable student voice from each level, the elementary level, the middle school level, the high school level, into our meetings, our conversations, and decisions, ultimately leading to 2 student-driven concerns that we can address within our school. So just making sure that this isn't something that just lasts for 1 year, something that we try to develop habitually. And I know for me, I told our teachers at our TAG meeting, I wanted something that was meaningful, and this to me is very meaningful. I want to make sure that just like you hear our teachers and you hear our community, that we hear our students as well. Our timeline for that would be, as you see up here, by mid-January, we're looking to make sure that our teachers are trying to find that concern that our students are having. A lot of our schools already are doing that. I know for us, it was our Prowl usage, and we're still getting that tweaked out, and we're still doing a really good job at getting our student feedback, finding ways to sustain it. And then at our first initial TAC meeting, we talked about finding ways to maybe invite our student leaders into that Brunswick County school process to make sure that our students kind of see what's going on here. I know for me, from my experience as Teacher of the Year, it's been so valuable to come and sit in these board meetings and see how things are done, and I think that same benefit could benefit our students as well. And that is all I have this evening. Any questions? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Garza. Thank you for keeping best interest of our students in mind as well. At this time, we will, I will ask for a motion to approve the meeting agenda as written.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Cook, and do I have a second?
Second.
And Mr. Benton. Okay, so moved. We will continue with the agenda as written. Thank you. And the first thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from December 3rd, our regular meeting, December 17th, committee meetings, and that's it. So do I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Miller, second,
Second.
and Ms. Cook. So we will have a vote on that at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now, if we will look at our consent items for approval, budget amendments.
I make a motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay. Mr. Benton has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Cook seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We will now have discussion and/or announcements by the superintendent and board members.
Chair and board members, just wanted to bring some good news. So first, coming out of Southport Elementary, as you know, this past year, Southport installed a track for the students there, and the track was funded by the hard work of the students and parents there. The track, of course, is in place, and they are enjoying it there. However, the company that was working with the school and the PTA, they wrote a letter to the PTA, and I'd like to take an opportunity to read it to you. It says, Play Safe Surfacing would like to congratulate the students at Southport Elementary School for taking the initiative and accomplishing your goal of raising the funds required to build a track for their school. The management team and staff were so impressed when Ms. Hillary Garber informed us about the fundraiser. Everyone decided that we would donate the material and the time to install the track. We hope that you realize what a great accomplishment this is for you to raise money to build a track for your overall fitness and health, not only for the students, but also for your community. Play Safe Surfacing, again, congratulates everyone for achieving your goal and hope that you enjoy your new running track. So what they've done, they donated the time, they donated the materials to the amount of $22,000 to be saved in the Southport PTA. And I think Ms. Bourne is here. She gave me that information, so I just wanted to congratulate you and the PTA on that great achievement and your students for their fundraising efforts. Secondly, I wanted to mention our career and college promise students. We don't talk much about those folks that are taking the courses at our Brunswick community, but we have many students who are excelling in the courses that they're taking on the president's list and dean's list. So I wanted to just give them a shout out tonight. On the president's list from West Brunswick High School is Brooke Keski, and from North Brunswick High School, the president's list was Trenton Thorpe, Ryan Simpson, Bailey Smith, George Rippey Rayner and Helen Rippey Rayner. And from South Brunswick High School, Brianna Shirley and Raymond Arvidsson, all on the president's list. So let's give them a round of applause for their efforts. Students making the dean's list: from West Brunswick High School, Aiden Falk, Olivia Fish, and from North Brunswick High School, Cullen Wright. So these students are doing an exceptional job at Brunswick Community College. I also wanted to give it to Mr. Cheers now. He has some further information I think you will find interesting as well.
Thanks, Dr. Evans. I wanted to update you on the spring semester of kids taking career and college promise courses at BCC. Last spring, we had 208 kids taking classes, and this excludes our early college students. This year, that number is up to 270. And of those 270, 217 are in the college transfer pathway. So that's very exciting. That's saving them a little over $400,000 there. And with early college, we add in another 359 students that are participating in the college courses as well. So continuing to see an increase in our students earning the college credits.
That's awesome to hear. Congratulations to all of our students and the families for the support given there. And
Dr. X, would you just share, we just had the mid-year graduation, which was our
Yes,
first, that was
yes.
an exciting event, so if
Thank
can
you
share
for
about
that. Yes, we just had our first mid-year graduation this past Friday, and I think we had close to 40 students who participated in it. These students finished all graduation requirements early, and this board thought that it would be in the best interest of those students and the parents to give them an opportunity to participate in a graduation ceremony. Didn't hold back, had the full ceremony as we do in the spring at Odell Williamson, and it was a delight to see those students and the smiles on their faces as they came across the stage. Had this board not done that, many of the students would have gone on to their careers, gone to the military, and wouldn't have had the opportunity, particularly for those that are going to the military, to participate in our spring graduation. So we wanted to make sure that this was something that hopefully we can continue as we have students who graduate mid-year. So again, that was a wonderful experience, and we look forward to future graduations.
There was no fighting over tickets.
No fighting over tickets at all.
There was plenty of room.
Thank you.
it truly was a special event, being the first for our mid-year graduation, and we're very proud of our graduates, and again, for the families who provided support for them. At this time, may I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Benton has made the motion.
Second.
Ms. Cook has seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.